Hello everyone. So maybe we will start in another couple of minutes.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. My name is Amit. People are still joining, so let us wait for a few more minutes and we'll begin. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon once again. We have 100 plus participants right now, and it's already 5 past 3. So let us start. I'm sure everybody is aware about the agenda of this particular session. So we are going to talk about resume. What is resume? How to build it? What needs to be taken care of so that the purpose for what you have made the resume is achieved. So before that, I will introduce myself, and I have three more senior industry person with me. So my name is Amit. You can see it in my as a co-host right now, and I am from semiconductor industry with roughly 20 years of experience in the industry. And I have been part of startup wherein I was one of the co-founder. So I had started my company called GetLength 6 years back, and since then I have been mostly working in startup mode. So in this 20 years, I have obviously come across uh, potential employees looking for jobs with various experience range, starting from fresh graduates till 15, 20, 25-year experience also. So with me, I have Mr. Punit Mittal. He is again from VLSI industry, and he's also founder and CEO of a company called VLSI Expert. So VLSI Expert is again into mentoring and coaching for and preparing students and college graduates for taking up job in the VLSI industry. So he has been working with a lot of colleges directly as well as students from out of college also for the last 3 to 4 years. And before that, he has worked for close to 13, 14 years in the semiconductor industry. Then I have Mr. Sumit. He comes from a software industry. And he comes again with 14 years of experience in the software industry. And he is one guy who is still into hands-on role. Plus, he has been mentoring and working with the students community and fresh grads who come into the software industry. And I have fourth person with me. He is Mr. Mubarak. So he brings again 20 years in the VLSI industry with a lot of management role. So he has been part of setting up teams and building teams for large organizations. So he has also been part of the journey of fresh graduates as well as experienced engineers from their early career. So I will have all of them talk when we have the question and answer session towards the end of the session so that they can also take up any queries that you might have because they all have their own experience working with different kind of candidates and professionals. Okay, so with that, let's begin. So I'll quickly review the agenda of today's 1 hour session. So to start with, we will have a quick introduction about what is a resume, how is it different from a CV, which is curriculum vitae. I think both the terms are used in the industry, and we all believe that both are same, interchangeable, but actually there is a huge difference. So we'll just have a quick look into that before we jump into the actual agenda of the resume. So we'll talk about the purpose of a resume, uh, what is the main goal, why we build a resume. So since the resumes are meant for employers, so we will have one slide talking about what the employer expect when I share a resume. Because when I'm making something for the employer, it's very important that we meet their expectation. So we'll look at what they look for, and then we will jump into what is a resume from a content point of view. So, so we all know resume is nothing but a small document of few pages. So it's very important that we go through the content of that resume, how to build it, what should we write, what we should not write, what are the key components, key headings. So we'll go through all that. Now, once we learn about the content, it's also important that we should also know about how a resume should look like for different experience range. So we will look at how a fresher should write their resume, and how is it different from people who come with decent experience in the industry, maybe 5 year, 10 year, 15 year kind of industry experience. And finally, we all know the kind of slowdown we are seeing in the industry uh, because of the pandemic going on for the past 4 months in India, and maybe a little longer in few other countries. So right now, I think globally there is an impact that we are all aware of, and one of the largest impact that we know of is job loss, and also lack of opportunities. So in this kind of a scenario, it's important we understand about how we need to prepare ourselves so that we can still find a job even though there are limited opportunities. So we'll have some tips about how to probably fine tune our resume to go with the current time. And as a last topic, we will review a few resumes and see how a resume should not look like. I mean, what should not be part of a resume. And we'll also see a couple of resumes wherein they are the more standard, acceptable, and expected form of document. And with this, we will end our main agenda and we'll move on to question and answer. So we'll address any specific queries that some of you might have. So before I get into the first slide, I'll also tell one more thing, that this is a very generic session. So when I talk about resume, we are going to talk in terms of any industry. It applies to any industry and need not be IT industry or electronics industry, because we are not getting into what to write, but more about how to write. So apart from this, yes, we do have other engagement where we engage with professionals and students and freshers to talk more about any specific things, like how to write certain a part of one of the resume. For example, how to write your project detail, how to write your summary. So those are uh, detail level which is not going to be addressed in this forum. So we have a different sessions for that, which can be discussed later. So to start with, as I said, let's look at what is the difference between these two things. That is the resume and CV. So the first thing is, let us understand the meaning of the term. So both these terms are from different language. It comes from different languages. So the curriculum vitae is a Latin word which means course of life. I'm sure that meaning itself talks about how this document should look like. And again, resume in French is summary, which again signifies that how this document should look like. So one is sounding like a detailed document, other one is sounding like a summary, right? So that's exactly what it is. So CV is meant to present complete history about my academics, primarily focused towards academics plus other credentials in my professional life. So this is a more detailed document, whereas resume is very concise, okay, very short, and it just presents in summary about my qualification and my job life also. And this is specifically meant for jobs. That's why we are talking about specific position. So that directly means that length, one of the length can be longer, that is the CV, because it's going to cover a lot of detail. Whereas resumes are summary, so obviously it needs to be as precise as possible, whereas we still convey the required message. Now, as I said, the emphasis of a CV is academic accomplishments, so which could be research work, seminars, projects, and those things that we normally do in colleges and maybe schools also sometime. Whereas resume is specifically meant for the job market, and that's the reason it talks more about our skills and work experience. So the purpose, so where are they used, where are these documents used? So obviously, as I said, resume is used for job market to find a job, uh, or maybe some but CV is specifically meant for our mostly related to PhD and stuff like that. Now, what is a resume? In simple language, it's a marketing. So resume is nothing but a marketing tool and nothing more than that. So we all know when it comes to marketing, we need to be very specific, very quick, and convey the message in quick time. So that's exactly what marketing tool which promotes the person who's writing it in the best possible way with certain goal, obviously, which is the which we'll talk about little later. Now, this is a snapshot of, as we talked in the previous slide, personal, academics, and more important, professional life, which is like working life. So we promote through this snapshot. Now, when I'm sharing my resume with an employer, I am looking to tell him how I can contribute to his company. So that is one of the reason why we are making a resume. So this is just to convey about myself, that how important I could be for the company. So I'm sure we all know that resume is the first document that most employer look for, right, when I apply for a job. So obviously this resume must be able to make the first impression, and it should not fail there. So the first impression for the employer is my resume, and that's the reason we share it with them. Now, there must be a purpose why we make a resume and why we share a resume. So what is the purpose? There is one most important high level goal of a resume, that is to bring me to a discussion table. So in the picture you see, it's a one-on-one discussion, which is like nothing but to get you an interview and not really a job. So resume never gets me a job. It is having just one simple purpose, that I should get the opportunity for an interview. After that, it's about us, how we take it forward. And how do we do that? So what really is, I mean, why would I be called for an interview if I'm sharing a resume? So obviously my resume must grab employer's attention. It must convey all the positive and factual picture about me. Unless this happens, probably it will not grab the employer's attention. And once this resume has been shortlisted and I have actually got an interview, then obviously this resume also helps in setting up the tone for the interview. And that's why resumes should always talk about positive and factual data about me, because based on that, a lot of discussion will start, and employer will probably be uh, driven by what I have written in the resume. So that sets the tone. Now, what is resume? As we talked about, it is supposed to get me an interview. So which means that it does not get me a job, but it just gets me. So it's a foot in the door. So there is a door, and resume just acts as a foot in that. And beyond that, it's about how I take it forward when the discussion actually happens. So it's up to us how we sell when we go to a discussion table, whether it's face to face or telephonic, it doesn't matter. But then from there on, resume hardly has any role to play. Now, let us talk about length of a resume. So while comparing CV and resume, we saw that length of a CV and resume are completely different because they are meant for different purpose. And since resume is a summary, it cannot be long. So to start with, it's very important to understand how much time an employer, when I say employer, it can be a hiring manager, it can be a recruiter, HR from HR team. So how much time do they really spend to when my resume goes onto his table or to his computer? It's very important. And there are many statistics, many research which says that a person spends just about less than 30 seconds with most of the resumes. And if I have to be that person whom he selects, then I must impress within that 30 seconds, which means that what I show on my resume must be attractive enough and relevant enough. Otherwise, probably they will just discard it. Correct? So that's the first point it talks about here. It must sell me in that short window of 30 seconds. Otherwise, that opportunity is lost for me. And since the window is so short, we cannot take a risk of making a resume which is very long, because in 10 to 30 seconds, I'm sure we all understand that we cannot scan more than 1 or 2 pages in that time. So that first page is the most important, even if in some cases resumes are going to the second page. So first page will actually uh, decide what's going to happen with the resume. So we need to be precise. That's the reason. And of course, relevant to the job that I'm applying for. So when I say relevance, it has to be relevant to the job, because the person who is checking my resume is referring to the job for which I have applied. So if that person does not find it matching, relevant with all the skills and experience, then obviously probably he will not even go to 30 seconds. Maybe in 10 seconds, he can just pass it on and move on to another person. So this is the reason why the length needs to be short and the content needs to be very precise. So next comes employer's expectation. So as I said, when an employer receives a resume, whether it's HR or the technical person, he has certain expectation. And based on that expectation only, that impressing in 30 seconds will happen. So if in that window of 30 seconds, I meet his expectation, my resume meets his expectation, then I am going to be called for discussion. It's very simple. So obviously when I say uh, expectation, means he is looking for certain attributes which he wants to see in the document. Correct. So let's see what are the attributes. And this is very important slide. Please take a note of it. So first thing is problem solving skill and analytical skill. So I think analytical part we are aware to some extent, because there are a lot of different stream of life where we talk about analytical skills. But problem solving skill is something which is very key here, because employer is looking for somebody who is going to do the work that he has and solve problem in the quickest time and the most efficient way. So whatever I'm writing, that should be with the focus of showcasing the skills that we are going to talk about in this slide. So this does not mean that I have a heading called problem solving skill. Obviously not. So what this slide means is that whatever I'm writing should convey this kind of message. So what is the outcome and result I have achieved? So if I'm showcasing certain outcomes and results that I have achieved in my past experience, then that also in a way says that this person can maybe achieve similar or better results as part of my team. So that could be impressive. Then obviously the technical skill. So when I talk about technical skill, it is very specific to the job. So if you talk about maybe software industry, then it could be some of the languages that you know or not, some of the tools you know or not. So this is very specific, and obviously uh, I think we all know what is my technical skill. So that is much easier to identify and write. But obviously outcome and results achieved is not so easy, because this needs to be thought over, and then a very precise and a short description has to be mentioned which conveys this message. So initiatives, so computer skill, again it's straightforward, that what are the skills I have. So this computer skill is something that will be very very specifically required for that particular job. So again, that's a simple one, but initiative is very important. Now, when I'm talking about initiative, it means that in my previous job as an employee, or maybe as a student in a college, or maybe a PhD scholar in some university, what are the initiatives that I have taken in whatever I have done? So, am I a person who is very open to take challenges? So in taking initiative is always taking a challenge in a way. So that's an important thing that employers look for. So if I am writing something in a way wherein my initiatives and my challenge taking capabilities are shown, then that is going to be a positive message. Then leadership skill comes into picture, especially when slightly experienced candidates are being considered, because with them, obviously, any employer will look at what kind of leadership he brings, how he works with other team members, and how they can motivate others, how they can drive them to perform better, how they can maybe drive other team, functional team also sometime, to get results which is required by the company. Communication skill, again, this is a very very known skill. We all understand how important is it, because unless we are able to able to do uh, very well verbally as well as in written skill, it's going to be a little difficult. So while I'm writing a resume, obviously the person is not able to see my verbal skill, but communication skill when it comes to writing is something, how I have prepared my content will convey that message. So it's important that we do this documentation the best way. Ethics. Uh, in any company, ethics is a very, very important aspect right now. And I think every employer expects that we are all very ethical and do things honestly. We are honest in our job, honest with others, and so that they don't have any issues with other people, other team members in the company also. Plus, they don't get into any problem because of some of my unethical practices. So companies are very, very specific, and there are times when people lose job because of certain unethical habits or some unethical actions in their job. Attention to detail. So this is again, when you talk about any job, so obviously attention to detail means that when you have something to be done, you how much effort and time do you take to first understand that particular task or the project or the problem that is in front of you. And this is very important, because unless a person is very, very detail oriented, it's sometimes risky for them to attempt a new thing. So it's important that he goes into detail available and analyzes those before moving on to providing his solution. Well organized. So this well organized is visible in a way how I am organizing my resume. So how I have presented different headings, how I have formatted it. So that in a way also talks about how organized I am. So careful and competent. So this is again something. If I'm writing something and it conveys this kind of a message that I am highly competent while working with different people or outside customer, that will be a positive message that will go across to the employer. So overall, these 12 skills and maybe various other flavor of some of this also you might read about. But on a high level, these 10, 12 skills are something we should convey. The way we write will convey all these messages. So that's very important. So because till now we are not talking to the employer. So when we go to a discussion table, to a call, then of course I can manipulate and talk about how the expectation is. But as long as it is a piece of paper, then obviously what I write is going to convey all these messages. So that's why we get into content planning, because if I have to convey all those attributes and need to be precise, short, summary, then we need to really plan about what I am going to write. Unless we do this, I don't think uh, we are going to actually make a resume which is going to be attractive. So first thing is, I think in one of the slide I said resume is specifically meant for a particular job that I'm applying for. And that's why it's very important that the first thing we look at is the job description itself. Because job description, in most cases, talks about the expectation, the skills required, and the kind of responsibilities that the employer is looking at. So it's important that we analyze it and understand it. If I don't understand it well, it is never a bad idea to go and talk to the person. Maybe if some company has sent you a job description, then you can always go back and talk to the HR person and try to understand it. So that is not a bad thing. You can do it, but make sure you understand it, because unless you understand, it will be very difficult to move to the second step, which is finding out the skills and knowledge and the experience that is required for that job. So once first step is done, second step will be much easier, because then I'm talking about what I know, what are my skills, what experience I have, and I will just map it to the job requirement. So subset of that is identifying my strongest skill. So when I say strongest skill, because I will probably highlight that in a better way, whatever whatever the strongest skills I have, and maybe some of the skills which is not very strong with me but still required for the job, I will probably take a back seat and may not highlight that so much. Uh, so it's better to highlight some of my strongest skill mapped to the job, because that will only help the employer understand that how suitable I am for the job. Now, for each of the skill that I am highlighting, especially the strongest skill, so one is to write the keywords of that skill. Obviously, that is very important because keyword will be uh, mostly used for searching and sorting and filtering resumes, either manually or through softwares. But whatever skill I am writing, I have to illustrate it through the accomplishments that I have achieved in my job or in my academics, because that is where I will get a proof that okay, you have this skill and you really have it in a strong way. Just writing, I know Java, or I know physical design or VLSI design, hardly conveys the purpose beyond filtering and sorting. So once filtered, my accomplishment should convey that yes, this is my very strong skill. Now, the action what and the result is very important. So when I'm writing my accomplishment, I should highlight the action statements and the results that I have achieved, because most of the employer, when hiring me, is hiring me with a goal of achieving certain result. So if my accomplishment that I have mentioned in the resume talks about the results the achieved in my previous job or academics is highlighted, then obviously he will feel more confident that yes, this person is capable of doing that kind of results again. Now, this next 2 point is important, more for especially this training part is very important for people who are fresher, because in most cases, what happens when I'm a fresh graduate, I may not have a lot of projects done in my college. Maybe even if I have done, it could be small projects, but then I might have taken up some training after the college or maybe during the college itself in some part-time or online. And as part of that training, I must have done some small projects, right? So it's important that as a fresher, I bring this training uh, heading and highlight it prominently. But again, I should be mapping it to the expectation of the job. So if I have done some training which has no relevance with the job, it is not a bad idea to not write it and use that space for something more important, because space utilization that happens in a 1 page 2 page resume is very important. We should not waste our space for something which is not required. Now, when it comes to projects, as I said, in training, we might have done some project. And I have come across resumes wherein people just write that I have taken up training in Java, I have taken up training in VLSI, and maybe just 1 or 2 sentences they will write, and they will write the name of the institute or coaching center, and that's it. They completely ignore that the project which they have done in the training is carrying a lot of weight, especially when they don't have any work experience. So any small project, any small task that I have done in my training, I must highlight it, and that will be the emphasis of my resume. Okay, so that will be the uh, portion of my resume that will bring value for the person who is reviewing it. So this is where I say training and college projects are most important section for fresher resume. So let us think about it. So in the second line, when I say I will understand my skill and experience, So this is part of that. I should analyze what I have got training on, what I have learned in the college, what kind of projects I have done in the college, and map it to the job. So I talked about the keywords because these days, in addition to manual filtering and screening, there are a lot of softwares used for screening resumes. So especially when it comes to software, obviously it will be highly dependent on keyword search. And if I have not included the keyword that is required for the job, then obviously I will miss out. And even though I have the best skill for that job, so it's important that we decide about what keywords to use so that I get shortlisted. And there is nothing called a generic resume. So what it means? It means that a resume which is made cannot be sent to 10 openings in the market. So maybe one or two openings are very close. So you can probably send same resume to both. But in majority of the cases, if you're talking about 10, 20 different job descriptions in the market, I am sure each one will have few things which needs to be addressed, and accordingly you should update your resume. Because if you miss that, some of that's where your analyzing and understanding job description is key. Because many times what happens, I hear about there is a requirement of Java developer, and I know that, yeah, I am a Java person, so I will just send my resume. No need to even read the job description. If I am looking for a circuit designer in VLSI industry, analog circuit designer, for example, and I know I am an analog circuit designer, I have a resume made 3 months back, which I had applied for a job. I just pick it up and send it. That is the worst thing to do. Even if you have to do that, do it after analyzing the JD and becoming sure that, yes, this resume is good enough for this JD also. So even if you share same resume, take informed decision after reviewing the JD. And most often you will find that after reviewing the JD, you will find at least few points which needs to be updated in your resume. So please do that before sending it to any new employer. Now let us come to formatting. So formatting, when I say like what are the different headings that are required in a resume, and how, once we have done the planning of my content, then I am ready for drafting the document. So till then, we had not opened our Microsoft document to write the document actually. So now is the time we'll do it. And maybe initially this is also part of planning, like how we'll have the heading, where will I place it, and all that. So the first thing is obviously the basic detail about me. And this starts with my full name and a contact detail. So when I say contact detail, obviously these days I am not sure any employer expects you to write a 3 line, 4 line postal address. That is almost irrelevant right now, I would say. So unless some employer has specifically asked for it, maybe we don't need to write those detailed address, postal address, and all that, because it will simply take 3 lines of my resume, which is, as I said, space in my resume is most important. We should not waste it. So name, email ID, and mobile number. So if you have an alternate mobile number, please add that also. But ensure there is no error, because this is the only way employer will contact you, and you should not miss out on this. Now the next important in name and contact is LinkedIn. So I think we all realize by now that LinkedIn is the most authentic platform people refer to if they have to find out about somebody's professional background. So keep your LinkedIn profile up to date with a decent level of detail about your expertise. And if you have some testimonials and all that from any of your previous employer, colleagues, customer, and in case of fresher, it could be from your professors, lecturers, maybe some seniors who have gone to the industry, anything like that. So any recommendation in the LinkedIn profile. So those will be handy. But if you don't have a LinkedIn profile which is having good detail, please don't include it. So this is why where we say that you should include it if you have your LinkedIn profile in a very good shape. Okay. Never include any other social media platform links, Facebook, Instagram, and all, because I have come across a few where Facebook links are there, and those are highly unprofessional and not required. Next comes a profile title. So, and in some cases, it is also referred to as objective. So, this is a very, very short, maybe two-line or maybe two max three-line statement. I think 1 to 2 line is the most preferred one, I would say. So, what is it meant for? So, title is like after the context, title will come. So, this is the probably the first thing an employer will read about you. So, obviously, you want to market yourself in that first line itself. And when I say market, means you need to write something which is directly relevant and attractive for the kind of job that I have. So it must be very crisp and something very, very valuable. That, yeah, after reading, I should feel like, oh, okay, let me read further. So every line that I write should encourage the employer to read a little more about me. That's the idea of the resume. Or if he is not getting convinced to read more, then he should make a decision that yes, let me call this person for discussion. So my motive is either he shortlists me or reads everything that I have written. So you should have some attention grabbing and high relevance keyword in the title. And of course, this will come from the job description. Then comes skills. So this is the portion of the resume which can come just after the objective, because again, this is a very, very precise summary of all the skills that you have. For software industry, it can be the language, the tool that you have used and things like that. So this can be highlighted here, maybe in bold also if you want. If it goes with the design of your format, then maybe it can be bold. And maybe this can be a comprehensive list of maybe 5 to 10 different skill sets that you have. And these are mostly keyword driven. So this is where your keywords will come, and that will be useful for either manual screening or through software. Now next comes the most important piece of the document, which is the profile summary. So after reading these 4 sections, in most likelihood, either employer will not read further and call you for discussion, or he will discard it. Only maybe 10 to 20% of the people will read further down. So this much must convince him to read more. And that's why in summary, I should be very convincing in terms of what I am writing and how I am the best person for this job. So show the employer why you are qualified for this job. So this requires some skill in how to write it, so that I project my most important capabilities, the results I have achieved maybe in the past, and how I am the best person for that job. Right? So length of this particular section can be a little longer, maybe 200, 250 words. So overall, all these things maybe will be covered in 50% to 75% of your first page. So if you're a fresher, maybe this will be done in half page only. So it depends. Now, what I'm talking about, let's have a look. Okay. So this is what I was talking about, right? Here I talked about name, profile, skills, and profile summary. So these 4 sections are here. So this is how one of the template is there. So in this template, you see it's very, very clear There is no confusion, there is no searching that where I have written what. So it clearly talks about my name. It has one line of project profile title, and what it talks about. It talks about engineer with leadership experience in enterprise projects. So you must be thinking, I mean, how great is that? Why is it so great? Now you will know what this one line mean after you have read the JD. So this JD specifically was asking for people with senior level people with leadership working with different functions and in enterprise level projects. So that was the specific requirement of this particular job for which this resume has been made. And that's why this one precise single sentence is there. Now, after reading this, I immediately feel like, okay, the first criteria is met by this guy. Now let me read more, correct? So then he goes to the skills. Now skills also, if you see, there are some 7, 8 skills which has been well highlighted and easily readable. And again, this must be mapped to the skill sets that is required by the job. Now, next comes the summary, as I said. And as you see, summary is slightly longer and you see bullet points here. So we will talk about do's and don'ts, but since we are seeing it, I'll talk about bullets. This is one of the most important style of formatting your resume, having wherever it's about listing things or being precise, you please use bullet points because that makes it more readable for anybody who is seeing your document. So now you just read this one sentence, okay? Let's read the bullet points here. So the person talks about successfully managed quality assurance testing for some billion projects, right? Directing a team of 15 engineers. So you see how specific the person is about his results and his leadership skill, correct? So in the second point also, he talks about the leadership skill. Then it talks about standards, guidelines, methodology, correct? And in the first paragraph you read, it talks about managed testing, installation, deployment, and all that components that are consumed by multiple business critical web services. So here he is highlighting his enterprise level project skill and the leadership skill. So whatever he was talking about in the one sentence in the title, he is now validating those skills here with this maybe 200 words of summary. Now, after reading the summary, maybe I will feel like, okay, fine, this guy is claiming so many things. Let me see one of his project detail or one of his last experience detail, right? He might feel like that. Or maybe he will take a decision that it's not at all suitable for me because maybe this guy has not read my JD. Or maybe I will feel like, oh, this is good enough for me to call and talk to him first. So that curiosity is generated so that this guy will at least want to talk to me. And as I said, once I am asked to talk, it's about me, how I sell myself. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. So then comes the next portion of my resume. So now comes the project and experience. So in summary, I have generated enough interest for somebody to know more about me. And this is where I'll talk about the projects. So what are the things to highlight here? Obviously the role I have played. And as in one of the slide I said, I will talk about my achievement. So what did my effort achieve for me and for the company? That means for the project, right? I will highlight something where that I did in the project, which says that I have the best problem solving skill and I am able to achieve certain required outcome and results. So in the previous slide, that's what it was talking about, $50 billion turnover and all, right? So that's one of the outcome. Now, a lot of times what happens is that if I am a developer, let's say Java developer, in 3 companies I have worked, So obviously my role must have been almost same. Skills that I used there was almost same. So there is no need to repeat. A lot of times I have seen resumes where people just copy paste the experience portion in all the different companies. So that is totally useless. Instead of that, let's let's talk about results achieved and the difference that I made to that company or to that project. That will be more valuable and more attractive for the person who is reading it. And then we talk about the academics, uh, wherein we will talk about my qualification, any certification that I have done, and results. Here I say that no need to maybe add your results, CGPA and percentage. So I think beyond 3 4 year of experience, that particular information becomes redundant. That what was your percentage in the uh, BTech or graduation and all. So if job does not has a criteria that even if they are looking for 5 year experience, but they are still asking that you should be 70% per graduate in all the degrees that you have done, right? Then obviously you will write it because they are specifically asking for it. But if not asked, then maybe after 2 3 year experience, you can ignore this particular section. I mean, the results part. But yeah, we will talk about the college, university, and the degree. And then if you have achieved something in the way of rewards, recognition, honors, either in your company or even if it is outside the company, but then that recognition is directly related or relevant for the job, then obviously we can include that also. And here maybe you don't need to talk about like one paragraph of each reward and recognition. It can be more like a simple chronological listing with maybe one statement about what this award was about, nothing more than that. So this complete thing will build your resume, which is good enough, and no further details are required unless specifically demanded by the employer, right? Now let's look at how this portion will look like in actual resume. So this is a portion of the same resume that we saw a while back. Now you see we are talking about academics. So in this case, even percentage are mentioned, but maybe that is not required, as I said, for a highly experienced person. So it talks about two qualifications, and then it talks about projects. So in projects, you can see it just has the title of the project. So my ongoing project is nothing but it's a dummy title. And then it talks about very briefly about what the project was about. So it's important to at least mention 1 or 2 lines about what the project is, but make sure that whatever you're writing should not disclose any confidential information of that company and the project. That's very, very important because that highlights you in a very, very bad shape. Because if you have mentioned anything that is confidential, employer will think that you are not careful, you are not compliant with your company, and you're not sensitive of uh, knowing what to reveal, what not to reveal. So that's why I said 1 or 2 statements about the project is good enough just to make me understand that, okay, what this project was about. Then I'm talking about my role and some of the outcomes. So you see the outcomes of my efforts. So this is where I'm talking about accelerated testing, turnaround time, designed and implemented, company's first comprehensive database, I created it. So these are all action oriented accomplishment, plus results are also highlighted clearly. So this is how your resume should look like. So this covers, yeah, all the components that you need. Now once you know about it, obviously now you can sit and start typing and then placing the relevant headers in a different places. Now some do's and don'ts. So what is a resume? We talked about marketing tool, right? So obviously that means that it is an advertisement for me. And advertisement cannot be, if I am watching an advertisement on TV, I'm sure if ads are 30-second long or even sometimes 20-second long, we just change my channel, right? Same thing in newspaper. If I see some ads which is like too much of information, too much of data, we just read the headline and move on. So the same applies here. That's why my resume must be very short. And it is said that one page is the optimum, but in some cases, for especially for experienced people, it becomes a little difficult for one page. So it can go up to 2 pages. That is more than enough. So we should target the specific job. We spoke about it. Then to show the reader why you are best match for the job. So how I show is the way I write my content. So we should always use reverse chronology for education and experience, which means that my latest job or my latest education should be on top. This is the accepted way of presentation. And I should be well organized in the way I am formatting my resume. Okay, as I said, bullet points is a very important and easier way of presenting my skills. Now, coming to the font size, uh, in my 20 year of experience, I have come across really some weird font size resumes also. And trust me, they are not appreciated. And people don't even want to read some of those resumes if something like that is there. So let's stick to 10, 12. Maybe some of the headers can go to 14, but nothing beyond 14 is required. uh, 10 to 12 is good enough. So if you're writing main content in 10, maybe 12 can be your header and subheaders. Proofreading is very important because this is where your detail oriented skill is also highlighted. Don't make any mistakes. There should not be any spelling mistake, no grammatical mistake, because this really puts off anybody who is reading your one page or two-page document. So please do this maybe 2 times, 5 times if you are required. Use some of the spell check software, install it in your laptop when you're typing, so that you are foolproof in terms of errors. Now let's look at few of the don'ts. So there are quite a few, but we have just listed few of them. Uh, this is a very key thing. Don't make reader dig for information they are looking for. So in the two formats we looked at, right, I said that everything is clearly mentioned. No need to look around that, oh, where is his skill? Where are his results? Where are his accomplishment? So show him something that he's looking for straight away. So that's why on top I mentioned one line of title. So he was looking for how relevant I am, right? So I just mentioned one brief highlight of one statement. Then when he is going to the summary side, he is clearly seeing the results, my leadership, my other initiatives, everything. So if a person who is reading is not finding what he is looking for, he will not try to find. He will just ignore and look. I mean, he will basically discard your document. So show him everything that he's looking for at a simple glance. In the previous one, I said no mistakes, spelling or grammatical. Now, this is also very important. Fancy formats, designs, fonts types, and colors. Please keep these out of your resume. No need to have any form fancy stuff, design, font, color, and all that. Different size. I mean, variety of sizes. Also, I've seen resumes. So let's keep it simple. Though sometimes we feel attractive means design and font, but actually it is not. Attractive means the content, the preciseness of my content. No need to include personal information. This is again something nobody is expecting. So age, race, marital status, health status, nothing is required. Passport number also people are writing. Everything, my father's name, father's occupation also I have seen. So these are all irrelevant. Nobody is looking for it, and you will simply waste some space on your resume which can be utilized for a better thing. No need of references. So we have often come across one page of reference, actually some 5 6 people references name will be there. His work also will be mentioned, that what the references have done, what kind of thesis they have written, what kind of publishings they have done. So these are totally irrelevant and unnecessary. If at all an employer wants a reference, he will not want it while reading your resume. He will want it maybe while talking to you, or maybe once your job discussion is at an advanced level, that they have to make an offer, and before that they want to check some of the references. So they will ask you. So don't worry, no need to dig into all this. Do not make any misrepresentation. So no lies, no factual data. I mean, only factual data is what you should present, because once you get a job, your resume also becomes part of your documents with the company, and any mistakes or uh, false false representation are found, you might lose your job also, in even after 3 years of working there. So, and obviously, if you have misrepresented something and got interview call because of that, then that person will also find out that that was actually incorrect information in your resume. So this was about do's and don'ts. Now let us look at two different categories of resume. One is fresh graduates, and the other is for experienced person. So high level, nothing changes. So the overall concept remains same. Overall idea, the goal of the resume remains same. But why I am trying to project this fresh grads, because we have come across profiles and people who say that, sir, I have not done any project. I don't have any experience. What to write? I can only write my name of the degree and that's it. So that is actually incorrect perception. There are a lot of things that freshers can also write, but maybe that they are not aware about what to write, or maybe sometimes they are aware but they don't know how to present it. So that also is very important. So first thing is I need to introspect about my tangible skills. So how my skills learned in the college or in my training. It could be while working on a project, I could have demonstrated some management skill. While doing some seminars, I might have demonstrated some of my presentation skill, communication skill, some project skill there also in seminars, some technical skills, because seminars are a lot of technical aspects also, right? So these are the things that people normally ignore, and they feel like they are something that does not give them any data about resume. So look for what are the things you have done, and then look for the tangible skills which are relevant for the job. So you must be able to identify those. Any extracurricular activity sometime also demonstrate some skills which is required for a job. So maybe when you're talking about software job, then we feel like unless something is about language and computer, it cannot be relevant. But just look at any other job, right? Let's say somebody is going for an industrial job. In industrial job, there might be some extracurricular activities that you have been doing in college, which are very relevant for that industrial job. So why not include it and showcase as an experience, right? So this is the planning that I need to do before I think about what to write. Once I know what to write, then I have to find out how to write. So this is where I say how to write. I mean, what to write, right? So we need to transform our academic career and training into professional experience. So this is where I say I have to present it in a way that it looks like this is an experience I have, and it is very relevant for the job I am applying for. So any task, project you have done or training, it can come from there. Then this makes your time at college look like work experience. So if you're able to present it in a way, right, in this way, then what happens, even if you have been in college for 4 years or 3 years, you can pick some of those things from those 3 years life in college and present it as if it's a work experience. So obviously I'm not going to write like I worked in this and this company, but I'll talk about these are my experience. So work experience is nothing but learning that I have done, learning through working. That can happen in college also. It can happen in my chemistry lab also. If I am looking for a chemistry job, for example, right? It can be in physics lab. So there are so many other things. So I need to present it in that way. And obviously, for fresher, I think one page is a good length of a resume. But yeah, I mean, if you are not very comfortable in squeezing everything in one page, and you really have something very important to add, which has to go to second page, then you can take that liberty. But yeah, I mean, you need to think over to still make it as short as possible. So formatting is key here, how you format it, because there are times when a proper formatting can help you get 1.5 page of content in one page. So we need to be looking at that kind of smart formatting. A lot of times you will find professional templates also through internet and all, wherein you can refer that and probably adopt some of those. There are software tools also, uh, free, paid, everything. So that can be leveraged. Now, I'll give you an example of some project work that might be part of academics, but see how we can present it. So this is one project and dissertation where somebody is writing that analyzed and researched. So just look at the high underlined words, right? Analyzed, researched, designed, evaluate. So these are all skills, and these are very very uh, skills sought after in lot of jobs. So if a job is looking for your research skill, analyzing skill, how do you evaluate a problem? So obviously this is something which will attract the person to know more about you. Now formulating some solution strategy. This is a skill, right? Even if it's in a college level, it's a skill. So formulation, strategy making, planning, timeline creation, these are all very key skill for lot of jobs. And working with colleagues, right? So this is what my team building uh, team skill, how to work in a team environment, right? It could be delegating also, that some person I was working, some person he was working, so that's your delegation skill. So in a way it's a leadership skill also. Now after that the person has written the dissertation and about the project and presented it to the review panel. So here dissertation is a skill which is like documentation skill, right? Writing skill, communication skill is coming into picture here when we are talking about presentation. So I can face audience, large audience, I can present my work, I can document my work. So many skills are there in this 3 lines, roughly 3 lines of statement about one project in my college. So some of these are that these could be relevant. So please utilize this kind of content presentation, even if you're a fresher. Don't feel overwhelmed by the JD. Look for what you have done and how you can map it to the job. Now coming to mid experience. So maybe you can take 5, 5, 10, 15 years of experience who will have some leadership skill required also. So let's look at some of the key things here. Uh, this is an experience range where your summary becomes very important. So in one of the summary that we saw, we must be able to convey competences and results which are required by the job. So focus on this important piece of one paragraph, maybe 200 words, as I said, and phrase it in the best possible way. Keywords and phrases becomes very important for experienced people, because for after working in 10 years in the job, I'm sure I will have some 50 different skills, phrase and keywords combination. So I need to, of course, I cannot write 50 of those. So I need to identify the most important ones, which is more likely to make me eligible for that job. So I need to be able to do that filtering among all the skills and skill phrases that is there relevant to me, and I'll map it to the job. Uh, Here, the recent job is again one very important aspect, especially if your recent job was maybe 3 5 years kind of a duration. Of course, if your recent job was 6 months or 1 year, then you rather focus on your previous job than the last job. So focus on that, detail that little bit more than a lot of other jobs that you might have done in the experience, and again showcase your role there, the results there, leadership skill there, and how you have made a difference. This is something which is more relevant, looks like it is more relevant for sales and marketing job, but actually it is not. It is relevant for all of us, even in technical role. So numbers. So what does number mean? It is about representation of my results or outcome of my effort in terms of some numbers. So because what happens, numbers are something which is easily identified in a document, right? If one page I'm reading and some 4 5 numbers are there across the page, I will immediately my eyesight will go there, and I will probably try to read uh, that particular sentence, that what exactly I'm writing, right? And that is where that is the purpose of that number, that it should highlight and push people to read about it, that what number means, right? So example could be, let's say I am working in a team in a technical role, individual contributor role, but the efforts and all that I have put, I have maybe implemented a certain method or process or automation, for example, or I mentored people, because of which there is a productivity increase of 10%. And when I say productivity, it could be by way of, let's say, pulling the schedule by 10%, right? Let's say schedule was of 3 months, my effort made it possible in 2.5 months. So that's some number I have achieved. So why not highlight it? And it's nothing related to my marketing and sales. In sales, obviously, it's very easy because a lot of those revenue figure comes. So for them, it becomes much easier to bring in numbers. So that's the reason in sales and marketing kind of a business development kind of a resume, you will always see numbers, but in technical things it is ignored, which is again, I think it makes sense to bring out some numbers in some way. So other numbers can be in revenue, customer satisfaction level, and maybe a few other things in different industry also. So highlight those things. Key achievement. So this will be again, so we need to be prominently highlighting these achievements, so that it's very attractive for that job, and the employer also finds it I mean convincing to call me for discussion. Now, leadership skill, as I said, for experienced people, leadership skill is expected. It must be there, even if GD does not mention it specifically, because once we are talking about 5 year, 10 year experience, some level of leadership has to be there. It can be in terms of managing my work, managing team members, managing people from other functions, sometime across the globe, customer, all those stuff. So we need to bring in some examples, one or two maybe, which highlights this skill. And you can also highlight your some of the accomplishment which talks about, let's say, uh, mm, global experience working with global teams. So if the job is such that it requires it, so please highlight that. So with that, we are done with this resume thing. Now let's look at some specific tips for present situation, right? So Okay, looks like I have 1 minute. Okay. So yeah, so let's look at some of the resume tips right now. So we know that what are the difficulties right now in the market. One is obviously jobs are less, so less number of companies are actually hiring, and at the same time number of uh, job seekers are high because of unfortunate job losses that has happened in different industry in different capacity, but I think all industries are impacted right now with some level of job cuts. So obviously the demand supply is completely different right now. Demand is less and supply is much higher, which means that competition for job seeker is more right now, right? So we must be able to, we must look at a different way so that I can come out of this competition and still get myself selected for an interview, right? So obviously the standard way of making resume is good, but I think we need to look for certain other things also. So first thing is reframe my skill to meet the new different demand, right? So I have to reframe it. So proving that I can be versatile and nimble during this time, and I am more employable, right? So I need to be highlighting that, because what happens is there are people who have lost job, but then they are very adamant about finding a job in a specific skill only, and they are not very open for exploring some of the uh, not totally different area, but at least some of the related areas also. So we need to be, I think, flexible there, and we should be open for taking up challenges, new challenges, even if it requires some level of relearning, because relearning is always a good idea, because that could benefit you in longer way, also, longer time frame also. And we should emphasize the skills that are specifically required for online and remote working. So what does it mean? So as we know, all the jobs right now are, especially in IT industry, has almost been uh, into remote and online working right now for the last 3-4 months. In some of the other industry also, there are more emphasis on remote working, even if it's not like 100%, but then they are looking for that kind of a model also, where it's a mix of offline as well as online. So if I have done some online work, let's say before losing the job, I was working with a company where I was actually involved in this kind of a remote working, or in the past maybe I have worked with team across different cities, wherein I was working with them remotely. So that was not work from home, but still it was like a remote working, right? So let's say I am settled in Bangalore, but I have a team in Hyderabad or Pune, and I never meet that team, but I am still coordinating, working, managing their work, and still producing the results. So I need to be emphasizing on that kind of experience that I have. Now, choosing the word carefully. So, what this means? So, this is relevant for, I mean, say, I would say even in normal resume cases, but here it's more relevant because I'm trying to basically step over other competitors and highlight myself, right? So, here is an example. So, there is a huge difference between if I am writing managed productivity of 10 employees. So, this is one way of writing that I am a manager. Now, the other way of writing could be motivated a team of 10 employees to exceed productivity goals by 10%. I think it's very clear which is more attractive, which is more eye opening, that managing a team of 10 is no big deal. I mean, every other person is a manager in this job market right now. So, how is it different? But if I'm talking about how I worked with 10 employees and bring them to a level that I could improve the results of productivity. So that is obviously going to carry much more weightage. So this is where I call choosing the words carefully and phrasing it in the attractive way. And unless we have, so what it does is it also brings the results into picture. So we talked about showing results, numbers, right? So this indirectly brings numbers. So this will show the value that I will bring, because that value is something which will convince them to shortlist me. Now, the other challenge right now is when I have lost a job, I will probably have a gap of employment. So let's say somebody lost a job in April and still looking for. So obviously there is a 2-3 months of gap. Or if somebody is a fresher also, for example, this will apply to them as well. So if I'm a fresher, my college ended, let's say now already July month, I'm done with my exam and I'm looking for a job. And let's say it's October already, so 3-4 months gap is there. So how to address that? So that's important, because we should address that also in a positive way. So first of all, having employment gap because of layoff is no problem. There is nothing to be ashamed of or hide about. And especially in current scenario when everybody knows how difficult the market is, and job loss has become a new normal right now for the last few months, right? So in that scenario, there is no point in hiding or when getting depressed or uh, taking you off from the public glare and not looking for a job. So first, come out of it, feel positive about it, and then think about what you need to do, right? And there's nothing about hiding the gap in your resume also. So there are times when people simply will write, I was working somewhere, or they will extend the time period of previous job or something like that, which is actually misrepresentation also, and you will be caught if you do that. So instead of that, what we can do is mention how you have used this time for self development and upskilling. Or maybe in some cases, there are certain experienced people who are consulting also. And consulting is nothing but an experience for you. So it's not like you were jobless. Even if that consulting was not paying you, uh, being in job is never measured by the salary you make. It is always measured by the work you're doing, the difference you are making to somebody, right? So it does not matter if you are consulting or upskilling yourself. In fact, I would say if there is a gap, rather spend that time in upskilling, either through some close colleagues, or some paid courses, or without paid courses also, or self learning, whatever. So that will keep you positive, that will keep you upgraded, and you will it will also keep you more flexible in terms of looking for a job which may not be 100% aligned with your skills. So if you do that, probably you will be in a better frame of mind for preparing your resume, and if at all their opportunity comes, then you will be more confident in talking. So these are some of the skills we should probably look at. Now let's look at some sample resumes. So we have been talking about uh, do's and don'ts, right? Which means that there exists a category which probably is not a good resume, but we need to know what are those not so good resumes, right? So let's look at one of the fresher resume. Let me know if this document opens and not visible. I will share it maybe.
Samit, once you open, just let me know.
Yeah, opened. I think I have to share it, right?
Yeah, you have to reshare and you have to share the document.
Yeah, 1 minute.
So your screen is basically, I think, just stuck somewhere.
Yeah, I'm not able to.
You can unshare and then share.
No, no, my Zoom is stuck, I think. 1 minute. I have to sign out and sign in. Okay, just
Just
give me a
wait,
minute.
wait a second. Wait a second. Is it okay now? No. Yeah. Okay. So then you can just sign out and sign in. Yeah, Amit is working now, I think.
Working?
Yeah, we can see your desktop.
Okay, 1 minute.
Yes, we can see the resume also.
So this is one resume of a fresher. Sorry, yeah, it's a fresher, and this is an example of a very long resume. Okay, so I have basically hidden that content of this resume so that we don't share some confidential information. But you look at this resume from the formatting point of view. So yeah, it talks about name. First biggest mistake is you see the area lost till the name starts. So unnecessarily you are having a resume heading, which is totally unnecessary. And this name could have started straight away from here. So we are almost like 25% of this page is specifically for name, resume heading, and contact. So this is where I talk about. And this right hand side is completely wasted also. So this is where we need a smart formatting. Now, first thing it talks about is education. Maybe because he was trying to highlight some of the universities and all, but this is something probably can be avoided. Instead of this, if there was a professional summary and not educational summary, that would be more relevant. Because by reading the educational summary, I don't find any information which will make me believe that this person is actually relevant for my job, right? So half of the page is actually wasted without any good information and convincing information about the my candidature, right? Now after that it talks about thesis work. So now look at the how many theses the person has mentioned. So this is page 2. Still thesis work is going on. Now after thesis there is a project work. Again there are a few, 3, 4. Then comes technical skill. Now skill is at page number 4. And trust me, 90% of the people will not reach page number 4. They would probably spend some time in page 1, or maybe to some extent they will move to page 2. And once they find out that it just keeps talking about thesis, 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 he will discard it. Instead of that, if this technical skill was on top of the page and in a more precise way also, maybe in terms of formatting and placement, so that instead of taking 6 lines, this could have taken just about 3 4 lines maybe, right? So okay, formatting is one, but I think just the placement of this section itself is at the end, whereas this might be the most important information about the person. Correct? Obviously, thankfully, personal details are not much, but yes, at least this statement is mentioned. This is not required. So references and all makes sense when I'm applying for a college, university, for higher studies and all that. So that's normally part of curriculum vitae, not really a resume. Date of birth, I mean, it's totally irrelevant. How does it matter? I mean, do I care if a person is born in 94 or 1990? I don't think it matters. As long as I find the correct technical skills he has, I will not be bothered about it, right? So this is the example of a long resume. Now let us look at a short resume. of a fresher. You see it, Punit?
Yes.
Yes, yes, Amit, we can see
Yeah.
it.
So this is a resume, by the way. Doesn't look like that, I'm sure, but this is a resume of a fresher who has completed engineering. So he has mentioned his engineering degree. Percentage is also mentioned. Skill, there is a mention of skill also. Just one skill. So this is a real resume, by the way. It's not a dummy resume. Name is of course not real. Email ID is not real, but content is real. And even the this part, this is the objective written there. Okay. And above that, he has written fresher. So the fresher, what is written is the place where your title should come. So see, knowing that you're a fresher, again, this does not convey any message to the employer. In fact, it could convey negative message sometimes. That okay, oh, I was looking for 1 year experience. This person is fresher only. So it could go negative actually. It hardly has a chance of conveying a positive message if a fresher is written there, right? So I would rather write one line, two line about whatever I am, but why I am important for you. That is the way I should write here. Correct? Now, maybe some portion of this is that only, that he's trying to now talk about bit about his skills and Google Analytics certification and all that. So it's a very confused way of presenting. After writing fresher, you are writing some keywords and all that. In profile summary, I would say, I think this same top thing has been mentioned in profile summary. This exactly same, I think. Yeah. So you can see both extreme of fresher resume, and both are not, I would say, expected by the employer. Okay. Now let's look at a long resume of experienced person. So this is a 5 page resume, by the way. Okay. So here, at least formatting point of view, I think the person has got done decent job in terms of name on top and not adding his postal address. But again, the spacing has been lost here, because on the right you see there is a header with name and maybe his skill, and again he is repeating the name and email and mobile here. So instead of that, everything could have been in part of as part of the header itself. So again, some wastage of area there. Profile summary, we will not get into what he has written, but at least he has written something. But more relevant here will be a profile title. Instead of writing 11 years, if he could write how that 11 years translates into relevance for that job, that would be more relevant and convincing for employer. Competencies, yes, and skill. I think both are again slightly different, because for this industry there is something called tools. So he has mentioned tools separately and skills separately. This can be optimized, no doubt, in terms of utilization of space. But at least good thing is that skills are there, at least mentioned. Keywords are there, phrases are there. How relevant he has done it, that I am not sure, because that needs to be looked at the JD also. Now specialization. So just, but this heading is now confusing. Once I talk about competencies, then I talk about specialization. So both sound similar, right? Now in specialization also, he has at least a list of 20 bullet points, which probably talks about some project or some skills in different way, in a long sentence format. That's it. And I bet that some of those are repetitive also. So that can be made more precise and maybe covered within 3 to 5 points. Then comes the professional experience, where it talks about the name of the company, from, to, Then it talks about what he was doing in the present in that company. So again, you see the length of this information. This is half a page. Then it talks about achievement. So then it talks about second company, third company, fourth company, and a lot of those bullet points that you are seeing are repetitive. Same roles and all responsibilities he had in all the companies, because of course, as I said in one of the slides, right? If I'm a technical person, most of the places I will have similar roles, but the way I have done that work will be different maybe. The kind of results I have achieved will be different. The kind of problem solving I have done would be different. So those are the things to highlight instead of writing almost similar things in under all the company names and all the project names. Then there is an achievement. So this is more like rewards and recognition section. So, okay, this is not too lengthy, but we are already in page number 4 here. And now we are in page number 5. So this is again one company itself. So this is still going on. So you saw in between achievement has come, then activities are again coming for another company. So it's all mixed, confused, repetitive, and then it ends with personal data here, which is probably not required. So we are in page number 5 here. So looking at the goal of a resume, that it is to market you and get you shortlisted, and in the quickest of time of 30 second, or maybe in some cases maybe 1 minute also. This 5 page cannot be read. So many detail can't be read, right? So this needs to be optimized for better results. So I'm never saying that this long resume will not get him a job, but it's all about probability. So we are all talking about probability. So there is, even a bad resume can get you a job, no doubt about it. But do we want to take a risk and reduce my probability of getting that job? So it's all about that. Now let us look at a well formatted resume with the right length also. So I'll just open one fresher resume of that kind. So this is a resume which has gone to just about one page actually. Second page has just started. And here you can see the use of subtle color, not some fancy colors here, right? And the placement of the content, each of the content. Here again, he has written fresher, which is not required. Uh, so this, in that respect, even this is not recommended. Then he has mentioned a LinkedIn profile, right? So LinkedIn profile, as I said, if it is in a very good shape, please include it. And then there is a objective mentioned here, right? Then there is a short profile summary which talks about the skills and the kind of project the person has done. So by the way, this is a fresher passed this year itself. So, but still there are clearly highlighted skill sets here. There are 6 software skills that the person has mentioned. Then uh, very short information about the academics. So if the person wanted to highlight some tools also, that tools can also come here. So or it can come in a separate category also. But I think skills itself is good enough to cover tools and other software skills and computer skills also. Now there are 2 projects. So you see, even as a fresher, there are 2 projects that he has worked on in the college, maybe, or maybe as a outside the college with some organization. Sometimes we work with a lot of some NGO or some internship which is done from college in third year, fourth year. So those kind of a projects also can be mentioned here. So role is mentioned. So again, in terms of length, this is good. But as I said, how to write a content is another different skill, which obviously we are not addressing in this session today. But yeah, that is something we can also probably look at addressing in any future of our similar calls. But right now, at the length wise, it's perfect. Training has been highlighted clearly here, that what training the person has done, right? Development of industrial projects. So, for whom he has done the project while learning Python application is also mentioned. Then there is a web development project that has been done using PHP. So this is a resume which is more likely to be seen across full page, maybe sometime, or at least, as I said, this much should be good enough for somebody to make a decision also sometime. In terms of placement, everything is perfectly done. There is hardly a wastage of area, right? All line spacing, everything, font size, color are all in sync, in symmetry. We just have three font sizes here. So one is subheader, header, subheader, and the main content. Correct. There are combination of only two colors mostly, blue and black. In fact, blue, black, and gray. So this is much more soothing, more convenient for reading, and as a reader, I don't have to dig too much for finding the information that I'm looking for. So everything is highlighted clearly. For an experienced resume, if I refer, so this is an experienced resume. This is again the one which we saw was a screenshot of this particular resume only. So just that it's in a different color right now. So here LinkedIn profile is not mentioned. That's perfectly okay. Maybe that his LinkedIn profile is not up to date properly. So it's very important. Don't use your LinkedIn profiles for any unprofessional, non-professional topics to be shared there, and highlight your experience, skill sets, your engagement with other companies, or testimonials, recommendations properly in LinkedIn the best way possible. And if you have such quality LinkedIn page, please mention it. And it should come at the top only, because that's nothing but part of your contacts, kind of. Then email ID, a couple of mobile numbers are there, and my location. So I was saying, right, postal address is not needed, because right now maybe the basic thing I need to know is which city a person is from or which state. So in addition to state and India country, I can probably add city also. So if I say that I'm from Hyderabad, India, that is good enough for a company who is in, let's say, Pune, to know whether I should approach this guy or not, because he may not want to come to Pune, right? So that's good enough information. It does not matter where in Hyderabad he stays, his house number and all that. That, in fact, that should not be even mentioned, because that's a confidential information. So again, all the skills are highlighted, right, through some background. Then summary, we have already reviewed the summary. In fact, we reviewed the content of the summary also, to understand how the content should be. Then we have work experience. So 3 work experience has been clearly mentioned, with very short description about the role he has played in the company, because detail about his achievement are part of the project description here. So he talks about some of the outcomes. Then, so you see the last company is this, is has been highlighted a little more. Other companies' projects. So in 11 years of experience, you can understand, as an it's not like he has worked in only 3 projects, right? But maybe these 3 are the most relevant projects for him for this particular job, and also most relevant in terms of what he wants to showcase about his skills and achievement, because we may not have enough results oriented uh, uh, achievements in all the projects that we work, right? So better we highlight something which has a lot of those results oriented leadership skills and all that. So then comes the training part and certification. That's it. So it talks about 2 very important training and certification here. And in the job that this resume is relevant for, these 2 certifications are very, very important. So this has been rightly captured here. And that's it. There is nothing called personal detail or additional detail of about hobby and all that. Those are not really required. Uh, as I said, even here, percentage has been mentioned. Wait, yeah. So this person has mentioned percentage, but again, this is something that even if it is not there, not a problem, because for 10, 12-year experience, I probably none of the employer will be interested to know what percentage he had. Okay, so with this, I think we have come to the end. So now there are two things. One is I think we understood about what a resume is, what what planning needs to go into a resume building, uh, how formatting should be done, how placement in a resume should be, what should be the length of a resume, correct? And what are the key important do's and don'ts while we write a resume, correct? And on top of it, how everything I write must be mapped to the expectation of the employer. So if that is our focus, then I think we will design our resume in the best frame of mind. So I think I didn't talk about Expertie as a company. So I'll just quickly talk about what Expertie is about. So we are a software company here based in Bangalore, and we have a online portal which maybe some of you might have visited. So expertise.com is the online portal for us, and currently we engage with industry professionals with different experience, college students, fresh graduates. So we work with all these people in terms of mentoring, training also, and on top of that, this consulting about resume building. So in this respect, we have one WhatsApp line for us. So anybody who is looking for any, uh, who has a query, or he wants to understand anything about a resume, he wants a resume to be reviewed, or any specific quick query somebody has, one can always send out WhatsApp message. And then currently our online platform is there, which is resume building is there, part of this. So again, this is something which one can register, and there are templates, inbuilt templates. So as an user, I don't have to upload a template or something. It has one must use the template which is existing inside, and we have addressed that particular challenge where people struggle to find the best template to make the resume in the most concise way, right? So this template will help you not spend much time in terms of formatting a document, Microsoft document. So one can simply enter the content which is required in the resume, and it will automatically create a PDF resume for you, which can be used for downloading. It can be shared with anybody from inside the tool itself. Without downloading, also you can share with any other email ID, and that email ID can be employer email ID also. So without downloading, you can send a resume to a company if you know the email ID of the HR. Then other thing is that there is a job board also with some limited job posted right now. So obviously, since we are in a startup phase, so not too many jobs are listed. But yeah, whatever is there, and going forward, I think there would be more number of jobs listed. So one can apply to those jobs also while he's logged in and without downloading the resume. So with this, I think we can open up for Q&A. So please note down this website and mobile number. So we'll be open to help. And as I said during the presentation, that this session is actually meant for a generic resume building, consulting and workshop kind of a thing. But we do have other more specific sessions where we can address like how to write objective of your resume, how to write project summary, which is so we have been talking about we should present it properly, right? We should phrase the sentence properly, we should highlight and convey the message. So basically how to write a project summary, then how to write a training project. It could be how I should highlight and present my project in the job, if I have done some project in the job. So those kind of specific things, sessions are also part of our portfolio. And I think if somebody is, so normally we interact with all the registered users, plus obviously we open it up for non-registered also through some other form or something, the way probably some of you have filled right now also. So we'll look forward to doing some of those, and anybody interested can present, I mean, join that. Okay, so let's have some 10, 15 minutes of Q&A. I think I've overshot by 10 minutes. So let's take some questions, which Puneet, I think people can type and talk also, right?
Yeah, so they can use the chat window, or maybe what they can do, they can just raise their hand, and I can unmute them.
Yep.
So if any one of you have any question, maybe it will be good. Like, okay, you just raise your hand.
So Puneet, you want to share some of your experience working with students, because I think you do a lot of mentoring for fresh graduates, right? So maybe you could share some of your learnings and what you tell to these students while they make their resumes.
So yeah, I mean, so uh, basically, as such, you have covered almost all the things from the resume point of view. So I don't have anything much just to add on here, but yes, I just want to uh, add the same thing. I just want to present the same thing in a other way. Like for the resume, for the fresher resume point of view, uh, you have a lot of things to mention. Like okay, your projects related thing and your achievements related thing or the training related thing. I think that's very important if you can add those things in your resume, and it will be good. Like I have seen couple of resume, they just add details, uh, like maybe one sixth page of they just add something in terms of their personal details and all. I think they should uh, they should just make sure like okay, they don't add all those things as such there. Plus utilize the space as much as possible, and like your address, current address, your communication address, all those things you can add as a the top or the bottom of your resume. Like okay, if you are using the word, or then there is the option of a header and a footer, so you can use that header and footer, insert header and footer, you can use that particular part. That's going to be very good. So yes, that's all from my side, Amit, right now. So someone just raise his hand, maybe
Yeah.
if we can raise once again, I can let you know. So, I mean, there are a couple of questions over the chat windows.
Yeah, let me read through some of this, and or if you want to take some of this, Puneet, maybe you can start.
Okay, so it's like Sora was asking, like, okay, your resume is too long and wordy. How do I cut it down efficiently? I think Subrata, yeah, Subrata. So basically, that's what Amit has mentioned. So what you have to do if it is too long and wordy, maybe. So when it comes to the wordy, just first of all, try to convert into a basically in your the bullet points. So in place of writing a paragraphs, maybe if you just use the bullet points, then you can just reduce it, the whole content, like okay, if it is too long. Another thing is like as Amit already mentioned, try to see the your resume, try to just read resume once again and see if you can just if some of the things are coming in a don't list, or maybe your projects are too big, or maybe you're just writing a description too much. So I think it depends on the resume, but if you just follow those guidelines, definitely it is going to reduce. Okay, then, okay, so someone is asking like, okay, if possible, please provide your PPT after session. So guys, I think everything is on recorded. You can go and check our YouTube thing, and you will find everything there. I don't think so like okay, you need as such the PPT for that particular purpose. Yes, when it comes to the template of a couple of resume, yes, I will see like okay, if we can just provide you some link from where you can just download that particular template. I think yeah, Shashi, uh, then there was electrical background. I like to do a job in electronics. I can presently M.Tech student. How do I prepare resume? Okay, Charan. So it's good. The question is good. Like, okay, you are from electrical background and you want to do in the electronics. So if you wanted to go into electronics, so I think when you're saying electrical background, it's all about the degree you're talking about, like the BTech you have done in electrical side. And I'm sure like if you are willing to do a job in electronics, you should have something from the electronics point of view. Like maybe your job is supposed to be in electronics, or maybe something related to some training in electronics. Because even the electronics also there are a lot of fields, like VLSI is there, then the embedded is there, automotive is there. So if you will just add those things in your resume, then it's going to be very useful uh, for you and for the recruiter also. So like Amit mentioned very clearly, like okay, it depends like what exactly you want to showcase in your resume, how you're going to sell your things. So this basically the selling skill. Now if you will represent your if you just represent your uh, those skill sets which are related to the electronics, then you can easily apply for the electronics. Yes, you will get to know, means people are going to ask you like okay, what why you want to uh, work in this particular field, you're from electrical background, so you should have an answer for that particular part. And I'm sure like while you're doing M.Tech, supposed to be the something related to the VLSI embedded automotive. So uh, through that particular way you can just communicate like okay, this is that's the reason I have done M.Tech. So that's going to be a good story basically. So apart from the resume, you should have a good storyline also. So at maybe one of the session, maybe we can just talk about like from the interview point of view, you can do that particularly. Yeah, Charan, so I can unmute you. So I just unmuted you. Yeah, Charan.
Currently, I'm pressing in MTech only. I'm doing MTech also in electrical background, power electronics.
Oh, okay. So if you are doing the Amtech also in the electrical background, so if no, if I'm a hiring manager, I'm going to ask you like, okay, why exactly the electronics? What have you done from the electronics background point of view? So you have to show those skill sets. So yeah, it's little hard. Frankly speaking, if you have done your um, BTech and the masters also both in a electrical background, but it's not impossible. If you have done, if you just showcase me enough projects related to the electronics, then I think that's just going to be a good start.
So there are next couple of questions, Puneet. Let me take that. So
Sure.
Pranav is asking about test scores from some of the external test management platform, right? So Pranav, say it's like as we said, right? If your focus is clear that you are looking for a job of a specific type of specific skill sets, and if some of these test scores that you're talking about are about testing those skills which the employer is looking for, then obviously you should highlight it in some way. but make sure that you highlight scores of only such platform which is well known in the industry and accepted by the job market, because something which is unknown and if you're trying to do it, it may not really bring any difference or any value. So for example, unless I know that there is a website uh, from where if you take a test that is really highly respected and accepted, so please do that. That will be always carrying a positive side to your resume. uh, Nixon Jose. So you are should be taken care in building a resume for people who are okay. So you are trying to change a resume from your career from telecom to semiconductor industry. So I think there are two things here. First thing is, after how many years in some other industry are you trying to change your vertical? One is that if it is like very less, means let's say less than 3 years, I would say. So as less as better. Okay. So if it is 6 months, 1 year, obviously it's straightforward. It does not need a lot of any extra effort. But if 2 3 years, let's say you have been in telecom industry, then I would suggest you to first identify what skills you have that is immediately relevant for the semiconductor industry. If you don't have it, but then if you want to upskill yourself, then upskill in certain skills which you have identified as your target job area. Okay. Once you have done it, try to get engaged into some projects. Maybe one obviously is with the people you are training with, if it is a training institute. So please look for certain projects that is relevant to your area of interest, and do it in the best possible way and highlight it. And one more thing, when especially people are changing industry, right? I think you must have your project summary which clearly makes employer understand that why are you looking for a change in industry, and that why needs to be very very convincing. It cannot be uh, confusing. It cannot be open, that after reading I don't even understand what you meant. It should not kind of give an impression that you are trying to change the industry because salary in this industry is much higher, right? Or some friend has told you. So these are some of the I mean, I would say non-appreciated reasons. If you are saying, maybe people will not appreciate it, employer will not be excited about it. But if you give some very convincing reason that okay, you have spent last 6 months training into this industry because your background was electronics, but at the beginning you could not find a job, or because of some other reasons you ended up in software industry, for example, or telecom industry. So something of that sort. And it should not be like you're not happy in telecom industry. I mean, that is something, if you write, probably it does not reflect positively. Or you're not happy with the employer, so you're looking for a change and you want to change in a semiconductor industry. Okay. So it should be very very specific reason which employer would appreciate. In addition to, of course, you will have to show some skills also, that yeah, while you were trying to change the job, you have also made sure that last 6 months or 1 year you were actually working on building that skill with you. It's not like yesterday you thought about semiconductor and today you're applying, right? So there needs to be a planning goes needs to go into that. So please plan your change in industry accordingly by upskilling, and then having a convincing reason for you to write in the resume also. And if you get to talk also, then you have to talk. Okay. So which free online sites can we refer for templates? Okay, so Sumit has mentioned. So Ashwita, this is the portal I talked about, and you can log in and look for. So as I said, we have a few templates which we believe are simple enough, good enough, and does not have any fancy formatting, because our focus is into quality resume and not into fancy resume. So you can try it there. I think this will serve your purpose, I'm sure. In a resume, should we also mention the languages we are comfortable with? So, Pranav, language probably will not matter, but yeah, sometime depending on the industry, right? So, I think you are in from some electronics and computer background, and if you are going into IT industry, nobody cares whether you know Bengali, whether you know Kannadiga, whether you know Tamil or Punjabi, it doesn't matter, and uh, and nobody expects you to write that you know English, right? I mean, that is a minimum expectation. So yes, while talking, if you don't know English, then it will be a problem. But other than English, I don't think you need to write it unless you are applying for a let's say some of the industrial job, right? And let's say that industry is in Andhra Pradesh, where Telugu language is there. Now that industry might has a requirement that the workforce must have some level of knowledge of the local language. So in that cases, obviously it will make sense for that person to highlight the language. So there are so many things that sometimes employer asks for. So if they're asking for, if the job requirement brings extra additional value, if you know the local language, then please highlight it. So it's industry specific also, and some of the state policy specific also. 2019 pass out, currently working in IT. I want to switch to VLSI and preparing for it. Do I need to mention my job experience in IT in resume? So your job experience in the IT industry will bring some additional value, because otherwise you will look like you had a gap, first of all, and gap, having a gap is never better than working in some other industry. Okay, you better were working in some other industry, or doing some training, or doing some personal development, upskilling, right? Those things better than not writing anything and suddenly saying that I want to job in real estate industry. Okay, and other way it helps is that it also shows that you are matured enough, you have the maturity of, let's say, 1 year experience, 2 year experience person. And then if you're deciding about semiconductor, you will be expected to have a solid reason, as I said in the previous query, and why you didn't like IT industry. That question will come to you, no doubt about it, when you are facing an interview, right? And those are the tricky questions which you need to answer very smartly, and I would say honestly also. Of course, this honestly does not mean that you say salary is less in software industry, but some reasonably acceptable honesty. Of course, the reason might be salary, but of course that is something nobody wants to hear, right? So little bit of manipulation is required in being honest, but not like lying something about technical skills and all that. So please mention that experience also. Projects and work experience you mentioned in sample resume. So see, work experience in my sample resume was simply listing down the name of the company and what was my high level responsibility there. Nothing more than that. So you must have seen this was just name of the company, from, to, and I think location of the company. That's it, with couple of lines. Nothing more than that. So there are different ways of doing it. Somebody might after that somebody might add the project also, which is acceptable. No, nothing bad in that. But the way I showed you what how it helps is that it has a clear cut section where once it talks about academic, then it talks about work experience, then it talks about projects, then it talks about skills. So there are segregated area in the resume. So it is much more reader friendly than trying to find each company and then going into that project and trying to find out the value. Correct? So it's all about organizing your resume for easy reading. So any other queries, guys?
So Amit, there are a couple of hands raised. Let
Yeah.
me just check with them. Nixon, yes, please. Can you unmute yourself and can you just ask question?
Yeah, hi sir. So first of all, that was a wonderful session. Uh, this is in regard to the question which I asked earlier. You mentioned that I must have a valid reason to justify why you want to make a switch after from one industry. So this comes into play only when I am there till the interview. So, from my resume point of view, how do I make that point visible to the recruiter or the technical person? Because the situation what I faced was in most of my case, the resume went directly to the recruiter who had, I don't think, much of technical knowledge. So, the point the person just saw was he was in a different industry. So, it was rejected. So how do I make that thing visible that yes, I am ready to make that effort? And
So to tackle the recruiter, okay, the
Mhm.
only I would say best solution is, as I said, your skills. Now, as a recruiter, let's say the recruiter. So, by the way, how many years of experience you have in telecom?
uh, hello,
Yeah, telecom industry.
yeah,
How many?
close to three.
3 years. Okay. So, and you applied for a fresher job, is it?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. And now, what kind of skills you have in the semiconductor? You have some relevant skills that you had applied for.
Yes, I was preparing for last almost 6 to 7 months.
Okay. Okay. So, see, this is something that is possible that it will happen, because many a times, even if recruiter was looking for a fresher, they have a specific need that they want only fresher passing after 2019. So that is a basic requirement sometime. I'm not sure when you got rejected if they had such requirement. So see, for fresher requirement, these days always comes with this kind of things. One is percentage of marks across your graduation and masters if it is there. Second is which year somebody has passed, right? So I think in lot of fresher hiring I have seen they always maximum go up to previous year passing out student. Okay, before that year your basically priority goes down, unfortunately. uh, that's where I was saying, right, these gaps are never good. Rather spend that time in doing some other job, or at least learning something relevant only. So if some of those requirements were there, right, then it is very well understand that they will reject you. Now this is where a lot of reference will help you, okay, in this kind of a scenario, because 3 years is a long time in some Indian industry. Now you might be helped if you have a good reference sometime, for who can help you refer in one of the teams in his company, because with reference he can probably do some marketing for you also, right? Some short marketing, like why you are looking for a change. Okay, he can also talk about though you come from telecom, you have this kind of qualities, you are a very well I mean very strong character, you learn quick, you have been so committed, you have been learning on your own for 6 months or taking training on those things. So that initial pitch he will do it for you, right? So referrals will be easier if somebody is more than 1 year old student, uh, either with gap or in some other industry also, I'm saying. So look for that kind of a thing. But in writing the resume, right, I think it needs to capture one paragraph wherein it can be part of your summary only, that you have been in this industry. However, you have been kind of, let's say, upskilling yourself for this 6 months and have done projects like this. So it will help you. So overall, I'm saying, of course, your chances will always be lesser than a fresh fresher. So that is a fact we cannot neglect. But having that fact, also we have to come out of it. So this is where I'm saying we have to look for different angle. Referral is one. Having a profile rephrased and all that. Writing some projects, doing some projects with somebody. All those things.
Just to add here, Amit and Nixon. So, like you're saying, you're from the telecom industry. So now it also depends, like in which company you are and what project you are doing. So, no need to hide anything. You can just write maybe 3 year in a a semiconductor 3 year in a telecom industry, or you just write just the name of the company. And as a profile summary, you remember Amit mentioned in the after the name you have to just write a 3 or 4 word about the profile summary, and about what exactly you need. So there you can write like, okay, relevant experience. Either you can say like, okay, if you have any relevant experience, you can just write in that particular way. So what happened, like, you have to find out the skills which you are using in your current organization, which you think is useful for the semiconductor industry. One of the thing is like, now your programming skills. So like Unix, and then the maybe if you are doing any scripting related thing, tickle and all those things, at least you can just mention that particular part in your resume. Or if you don't have all those things, just in your resume, just write on the experience summary, you can just write single line, like, okay, you have 3 year experience in this particular company. That's all. Don't mention more than that about the telecom industry and all. I think that's going to be a good way just to indirectly telling the recruiter like, okay, I'm not highlighting that particular industry, the experience of that particular industry, because I have other skill sets which is relevant to the semiconductor industry.
Okay,
And
thank you. Thanks a lot. Yes.
other industry experience, right? You might have some problem solving examples in that job
Yes.
also, right? Problem
Yes.
solving skill, your leadership skill, initiative skill, results driven. So those things you have to bring in. So that's where your rephrasing your statement is important. So you will probably bring that you have done those kind of a things, even though it was in a different technical aspect.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks
Okay.
a lot.
Okay, great. I think Mamit, we almost done,
Yeah,
and
I
we are.
think we can wind up.
Yes.
So thanks everybody for joining. I think you must have noted down these two, one portal and the number. If anything you have, please reach out, and probably we'll send you invite for any future things about any other specific session for resume, or maybe some other career aspects also. So we keep doing that. So we look forward to it.
Okay, thanks a lot everyone.
Thank
Thanks a lot.
you.